Hello, hello. This is Dallas Cohen, the rebound coach from thereboundcoach.com, and you are watching or listening to another episode of The Rebound Coach Live. I'm so glad you're here today. Thanks so much for joining us either here on Facebook Live or over here on Clubhouse. And I'm going to tell you what, if you've ever been to church, black church, where they say the preacher gets up and he says, "I'm not going to hold you long." And you sit back to yourself and you go, "Oh, okay, this is not going to be a long one." That's me tonight. Not going to hold you long. I am overcoming a little bit of a head cold, and it's been a day. Okay, so not wanting to prolong our time together tonight, but I do want to come with something that is very important. And it's the topic of today's episode is, are you scared to try again? And that might seem like an odd topic, but I want to be very specific. So even before we get into that, if this is your first time here, if this is your first time sharing virtual space with me, I'm so glad you're here. Normally my voice is a bit different, so check out the other videos for that. But I'm so very glad that you're here with me today. And if you're not sure what a rebound coach is, I serve high-achieving women of faith who live through betrayal, trauma, or abuse, or any combination thereof, and want to reclaim territory in their relationship with themselves. And so if you're just joining, feel free to say hello in the comments. I would love to give you a shout out and say hello. I'm very glad that you're here today. But I'll be really brief in sharing my story because I want to get into today's topic. So again, if it's your first time sharing virtual space with me, I'm Dallas Cohen, the rebound coach. I help women get unstuck, and I'm dealing with a head cold. So if you see me with a tissue, that's what's up. But here's the headline, guys. I was married 10 years to a man that wanted me dead, and he almost got his chance to try. But God stepped in and saved the day. Now, that didn't make sense for a person like me who had two Christian parents who loved God, loved each other, was married for a lifetime. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. But they were married for a lifetime and were a good example of marriage and family and what that structure was supposed to look like. At the same time, I was molested from the time I was 8 to the time I was 16. And that really affects in those years how you see yourself as in a household of faith, how I related to God, and how I learned to relate to men. And so fast forward, when I met the man I married and eventually divorced, there were definitely red flags. There were definitely intellectual reasons that we shouldn't be together. But I, as a praying woman, believed God's answer was yes. And because of that, I believe that whatever came, we'd overcome it. We'd outlast it. God would swoop in and save the day and fix him and change him. And we live happily ever after, or at least dutifully ever after. Trouble came right away and never quite left. We got into a cycle of what I call coping and crisis. This is where you're not happy, you're just coping. And we did the coping dance for a while, and then there'd be a horrible crisis that just shook everything up, and then we get back to coping. So did that for the better part of 9 years. Everything kind of came to a head end of 2019, beginning of 2020. He left after one of those crises. He left for another woman, and I found out him and that woman had been plotting my murder for months by the time I found out. And I share this story frequently, but it's never lost on me how serious that was, and how I had no idea how serious it was, and yet I was protected. And so through a really divine series of events, I am here. My children and I are safe, and we're continuing to grow and heal and unlearn and relearn new patterns. And so the way I share the story is to say I could allow the identity that my ex-husband had planned for me, and quite frankly, the one I had agreed to tell me who I was allowed to be, how I was allowed to express, and how many days I had left on the planet, or I could choose life. And so I wrote a memoir coming out of that situation, coming out of that part of my life, that season. And it's called I Choose Life. Rewrite your love story and change your legacy. And it's not just, it is my story, but it's not just my story. It is very much a manual and a life map for those who have also survived, whether it is childhood sexual abuse, you've married someone with a mental illness, you've survived someone with addictions, you've survived serial adultery or any form of domestic violence, and kinds of domestic violence we don't talk about often, like spiritual abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, that sort of thing. This is the story for you. And I actually want to share a testimony. I don't normally get to share these. I share other kind of testimonies, but I share a testimony from Miss Audrey today, who is an older lady who read the book and shared about her experience with it. So I'm going to share that with you and come right back.
Hi, my name is Audrey. I finished reading this book, I Choose Life by Dallas Cohen, and I guarantee if you start this book, you will not be able to put it down. From start to finish, it's a real thriller, but it's a life story and it's true. It's a true story about Dallas's life and how she turned something that the devil meant for evil into something absolutely beautiful. And that took the Lord. You will be thrilled to read this book. You can get this book for $25, cash, check, or credit card. And again, buy the book. It's incredible. You won't regret it.
So thank you, Miss Audrey. She tickled me talking about cash, check, or credit card. You guys can purchase the book at thereboundcoach.com/book. That is thereboundcoach.com/book. You can get a physical copy of one of these. I will personally sign it for you and mail it out to you. I'd love to do that. Or you can get a copy from Amazon or an ebook copy. Okay. And they will send it over to you. But I do highly encourage you, not just for yourself, but if you care for someone who's lived through betrayal, trauma, or abuse, you want to pick up that book for them. Again, that is at thereboundcoach.com/book. Okay, so let's get into today's topic. Are you scared to try again? Y'all, something happened last week. Something happened last week that I need to tell you about. Okay. Something traumatic happened last week. So I was doing something that I do probably 4 or 5 times a day. I am in the post-COVID professional world. I work remotely like many, many, many professionals, and we do a whole lot of virtual meetings. Like this is a normal thing. It's a normal thing, right? By 2023, we've been 3 years virtual living. And so it's like you could do Zoom meetings in your sleep, right? So I happen to be hosting a Zoom meeting and I have heard about the dangers, and maybe you have too. I've heard about the dangers of people coming in and taking over your Zoom meetings. So that had not happened to me in all the time I've been doing Zoom meetings. And y'all, it's been a minute. Okay. So never had a bad experience with it at all. And suddenly, hosting a meeting, somebody popped in the waiting room that I did not recognize, but it's an open meeting. Anyone can join it. So I allowed that person into the meeting. Oh my gosh. Within like a few seconds, it was not long at all, maybe 10, 15 seconds, that person had taken over the screen and put some very inappropriate images there, scared the bejesus out of me and the other people in the Zoom. I was very quickly trying to turn it off, and I couldn't remember how to take somebody out. And I knew how, but in the moment, I just freaked out and I couldn't do it. And so I closed the meeting altogether. And a few really wonderful things happened. Okay. So I was like freaked out. Your heart's beating. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. All the things. Okay. A few really wonderful things happened. I want to send a shout out to Autumn and to Scott and to Malikia and to Sharente, and to the people who were on the Zoom with me, the open discussion. And we will still be having open discussions in the future. But I just want to shout out to them because number one, they all were trying to get back on, which is amazing because I know it wasn't just me who was traumatized. It had to be everybody because that was ridiculous. But number two, Autumn called me. Hey, are you okay? Hey, I took care of this. Hey, do you want to try this now? Do you want to try that? So really wonderful things happened in that the supporters were supporting. So that was phenomenal. And we did get back on and continue our conversation, and people did get value out of last week's conversation. Unfortunately, we will not be sharing any recording of that conversation. So if you missed it, you missed it. However, I would say that was a success, and very specifically, it was brought up then, and it's still true that it's if an abuser comes, if someone comes who doesn't have good intention and tries to interrupt something good, you're overcoming that negativity is by continuing, right? So in the moment, how are you, Dallas? Yeah, I'm a little shaken up. That was outrageous. Here we are, we're going to start again, right? So in the moment, we know how to move on, we know how to get to the next thing, which is really important. But what I had to admit to myself, so even after we started up again, someone I did recognize comes in the waiting room, and I have to press accept, and my heart responds. So, my body responds, my heart is beating fast, and you get that feeling where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really scared, I'm nervous, and it's something so routine. So again, I can do a Zoom meeting in my sleep, right? This is so routine. This is something we do all the time, but suddenly, and I do it with confidence all the time, but suddenly in that moment, I was afraid. I was afraid of something that was really normal and really regular and really routine. And I don't know about you. I don't know if this ever happened to you where something that was just normal and regular and routine suddenly feels really overwhelming. Suddenly you're nervous about it. Suddenly there's anxiety and you're like, I'm not sure if I can do this. I don't know how to do this. Like the noise in your head gets really loud, right? So we have voices in our head all the time, okay? And you're not crazy if you have voices in your head. There's some other qualifications for that, but everyone has kind of voices in their head that tell them all sorts of things. And if the voice that tells you danger, 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 right? That voice gets really loud. That's an anxiety moment. That's a moment you are feeling anxious about whatever. And so I was definitely having danger, danger, danger going on in my head over something really simple. And what that showed me, that was what folks call a trigger. What that showed me is like, hey, this is something that needs to be dealt with. This is something that needs to be examined. It's not just a regular situation. We gotta handle this. And so even in that, like, I was scared to try again. I was scared to go back and start that conversation again. I was like, oh, maybe we're not going to do this format anymore. Maybe it's not safe, right? And so for many of us, it's not always really clear. Like, that's a very clear example, and that's why I shared that example. It's a very clear example of trauma and trigger. But so often that it's so subtle. Something we feel, oh, that doesn't feel safe. Oh, I don't know if that's safe, right? I don't know if that person is safe. Okay. And sometimes that's a good intuition, and sometimes it's a trigger. Okay. So while we can very easily, I want to look at my notes to make sure I don't forget anything important. While we easily kind of get over it and move on in the moment, right? So we need to, whatever we need to do, like, hey, I need to keep going and doing whatever. I got to feed the kids. I got to go to work. I gotta, take care of my responsibilities, whatever they are. Like, we get up, we get the body moving, we do what we're supposed to do every day because we have to at the moment, for necessity. But even still, that, because I felt that anxiety, because I felt that trigger, I knew that that was a trauma that needed to be processed. It wasn't just something to get over. And how do you know if something that happened is a trauma that you need to deal with? Well, if there's a trigger, if there's anxiety around it, if suddenly we're scared to do something we used to do with confidence, okay? Whether that's as small as a Zoom meeting that you could do in your sleep, or as large as, being in a romantic relationship, or trusting a family member, a friend, or trusting someone, or allowing someone to love you. It's all the same process, okay? So here's what the process looks like at a granular level. So I had to look at, okay, I'm afraid to. The trigger was I didn't want to let somebody into the waiting room, even though I recognized them, because I was afraid. Okay, so you drill down, or what am I afraid of? What am I actually afraid of? At a granular level, if you keep asking why at least 7 times, what do you get to, right? So at a granular level, I was afraid that an action that I took. So in this example, the action I took was I allowed this person I didn't recognize into the waiting room, okay? Or from the waiting room into the meeting. I clicked accept. So I took that action. And because of that action, someone else had forced their will on me and other people because of me. And it was harmful. So they forced their will. It was a harmful thing. It affected me. It affected other people. And I caused that, right? So what does that boil down to? That means I don't trust myself. I don't trust my own decision making, because I can make a decision that hurts myself and others. I can make a decision that allows someone to force their will on me, allow someone to force their will on other people, allow someone to hurt other people. So all of that, and you're like, man, that sounds like a lot. Was it really all of that? Yeah, it was. And I would say whatever you're afraid of is deeper than what you think. Also, whatever you're afraid to try again, it's not just like, oh, well, I was hurt in the past, and so now I don't want to be in a relationship. Like, it's so much deeper. It's so much deeper than that. If you allow yourself to be really honest, you'll be able to get to something you can change, to something you can affect. But as long as you're making it about other people, and this is okay. So even in the moment, in the example that I shared with you, the folks around me, the folks who were supporting me, and supporting the effort, would say things like, it happens. It's okay. We'll learn from this. We'll do better next time. And that's all of that is true, right? So it does happen. This is not uncommon. I wish it was. I wish that was uncommon, but it does happen often enough. There are security things in place. So you took those steps. So I reported the individual. I read up on different ways to make better decisions regarding that, and to be a little safer next time we try it. So even though that there are practical steps to take, right? So you might, if there was abuse, you might report your abuser to authorities. You might not do that either, and there's no judgment either way. You might share your story, you might not. So any of those, right? There's practical things to do. There's practical safety steps to take to learn from the experience, but that's on the surface. There's deeper things to deal with when you are scared to try again. So I looked at it on a granular level. I made an action of kindness that resulted in harm to myself, harm to other people. So that's something to be afraid of. Okay? That's something that is genuine, something to be like, oh, I don't want to do that again. Oh, I don't want that to happen to me or other people again. I'm kind of ashamed. Okay, and we're going to use that word. It's a big word. Kind of ashamed that my action caused harm on these other people. Okay, so getting really granular about what it is you're afraid of, the emotions that you're dealing with, and what it all actually means is really, really important in taking the next step. Okay, so Steps. Here's the steps. So if you're taking notes, guys, I've got 5 steps for you. 5. Ready? Steps to overcoming fear of trying again. Number 1. Ooh, can I see what I'm saying? Number 1, stop and admit that there is a trauma that needs to be dealt with. Okay, again, we all learn how to move on in the moment because we're very adaptive creatures. We're very good at survival. We're very good at, I need to take care of my responsibilities. I got to take care of these kids. I got to take care of this house. I got to take care of, whatever. I have to keep going. We're very good at keeping going. But what's really important is that, hey, if I'm getting anxiety over something that I used to be confident in, if I'm getting flashbacks or even disruptive thoughts. So you're thinking about something normal and suddenly, a flash of something dramatic, traumatic. It reminds me a little bit of videos that you can watch that's like a TikTok or a reel or sometimes a YouTube video that's just, it's something regular and innocuous, and then suddenly you see a scary face with like a scary sound. If you've ever seen one of those, it's kind of like that. So you might be imagining something regular, normal, and then suddenly something scary, right? That's not regular. That's a sign that something's going on and that something can be addressed, okay? So, number 1, stop to admit that there is a trauma that needs to be dealt with. Number 2, get granular about what you're afraid of. Be honest. I'm a journaler. I find a lot of value in writing out my thoughts and feelings. I highly recommend that. If you're a verbal processor, you need to tell a friend. You don't have a friend, you need to tell a recording. You need to tell something. You need to tell the air. You need to tell Jesus. You need to talk it out. Talk it out. Okay. Number 3, and this is key, forgive yourself. So in the example I shared with you, I shared that what I was mostly afraid of, it was my action that caused that particular trauma, or at least what I connected to it. So it's important, even in childhood abuse situations, a lot of young people still find blame or abandonment. It may not always be abuse, but abandonment. If you're missing a parent, if the parent died, if the parent was, serving in the military or was serving in church and couldn't be present, like whatever it was, children often blame themselves for whatever is going on in their world. So take time to forgive yourself. And I have a forgiveness script. We don't have time for that today, but make sure that you are forgiving yourself of whatever involvement you feel, whatever shame you feel around the trauma, whatever happened, okay? Number 4, get support. Don't do this alone. You don't have to, guys. You don't have to. It's easy enough to just tell a friend. I tell people all the time my inbox is open. You could inbox me, hey, Dallas, I was doing the steps and this is a trauma I've been dealing with. Like, it's fine. Okay, if you don't have someone to tell, you can inbox me. My inbox is open. Okay, so number 4, get support. Tell a friend what's going on with you. And number 5, with your support, walk again. So, in the example of last week, we got right back on. We continued the conversation. People got value from it. The night ended well. Okay, it ended well. And here we are again, right? Here we are. So it's very important to continue. And all right, I learned. Here's the lessons. Here's the steps I took practically. Here's what I'm going to do practically to make sure that situation doesn't happen again. I've forgiven myself. We're going to move forward. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. But it's important for whatever it is that you are afraid to try again, whatever it is, overcoming fear, overcoming fear is more important even than the trying again. So a lot of folks equate, romantic relationships. So after an abusive marriage or, a bad romantic relationship, they equate getting into another relationship with healing. That's not the same thing. Not at all. Now, while someone who's been abused can be afraid to be in a new relationship, just being in a new relationship does not equal healing. Doesn't mean you've overcome anything. It just means you're in another relationship. That's it, right? So learning to walk again is about overcoming the fear, which is more valuable than doing the task again, if that makes sense. So let's say someone's afraid to drive a car after a car accident. Excuse me, y'all. I got like 5 minutes left in here in the tank. So if someone, let's say someone's afraid to drive a car, and this is also, so PTSD, people hear about that. So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a disorder, and it's a clinical disorder. We throw those letters around like we are all clinicians, and we are not. So that disclaimer. But people use PTSD to kind of describe the anxiety around taking certain actions that are connected to a traumatic event. So just like I described to you, okay, I'm in another Zoom situation. Okay, I have to hit accept again. I'm a little nervous about that, right? So they were, oh, you have PTSD. There's also a new kind of term called CPTSD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which typically stems from long-term abuse or long-term trauma. Whereas PTSD could be a single traumatic event, CPTSD is considered something from a longer trauma, longer abuse or longer event. So anyway, saying all that to say, when that person gets back in that car to take a drive somewhere after a traumatic event, they don't have to do that alone. They don't have to do it alone, and you don't have to do it alone. Not only is my inbox open, I am accepting clients. So if you feel that, hey, I need to overcome the fear of trying again, and I've tried it on my own all this time and I've not been successful, you don't have to do this by yourself. You can contact me and we can walk together. We can walk together. You don't have to do it alone. That is the beauty of community. That's the beauty of community. And I invite you to contact me. You can find more information about my services. You can reach out to me on this platform, whatever platform you are watching or listening on, because if you're watching this, you're either on Facebook or you are on Clubhouse. So you can inbox me at either app, or you can just go to thereboundcoach.com and find all sorts of information, or reach out to me there. There's a contact form there as well. Guys, you don't have to do this by yourself. You really don't. And you don't have to force yourself to try again faster. That's not the win. The win is learning and growing and overcoming fear. So I just want to encourage you that you can do it. We can do it, and we are doing it together. All right. Thank you so much for sharing space and time with me. Please put in the comments what stood out to you, what action you're going to take. And if this message was a blessing to you, please share it. Share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with someone who needs to overcome their fear and try again, and someone that you are willing to walk alongside with and say, hey, I will walk alongside with you. Let's overcome this together. Thanks so much again, guys. I appreciate you spending your time here. And until next time, choose life.